It was Restream having an issue, apparently. Welcome, new people. I'm sorry about that. Um, it was indeed Restream having a connection issue. I have logged out and logged back in. Hopefully everything has come back live. Hello. Sorry, OBS and Restream are being a pain. I think, well, I've done what I can to try to fix it. But it looks like we're probably just going to have some stuttering issues. There's not a lot I can do. It is a Restream side thing because when I went to try to set it up, it was showing connection issues with Restream. So that is the issue. I need to set up a backup plan. I might have an idea for setting up a backup plan, but it will take a long time to get set up, so we're not doing that tonight, I'm afraid. Hopefully I will remain in a watchable state at the very least. Fingers crossed. So, the other thing I wanted to bring up tonight, before we get started, is sort of a personal achievement celebration / laughing at someone for being an awful person. So, last stream I reacted to CoffeeZilla, and we talked about the Lotta thing, and I pointed out all the things that Graham Stephan has done to basically rob people of their money and scam them. Apparently, Graham Stephan was watching that stream because he blocked me. He blocked and banned me from his channel, which I think is hilarious. I'm a small know-nothing streamer, but I guess I got under his skin enough to get the hammer. Hello, welcome. I apologize for the quality. Restream is being a butt. So yeah, I went after the stream, almost immediately after the stream, to check his channel to see what was going on with the Fallout, and found out that, other people can interact with his channel. I can see them actively interacting with his channel. I cannot interact with his channel. That's the first time he's come up on my channel. So I am both honored that he felt the need to watch my stream and find it hilarious and pointing and laughing at him for feeling the need to ban me over my stream, calling him out for his absolutely awful actions. So I consider that a little personal achievement. You know, I feel like you've made it if a big streamer is bothered by your existence enough to just remove you. I think that's really funny. Yeah, it's like, oh no, he's so fragile that this tiny little VTuber, this tiny little no-name VTuber is a threat. I consider that a personal win. So yeah, that's just me kind of like, I'd say dancing on his grave, but he's technically not sunk yet. He seems to be taking the approach, which is probably the smarter of the approaches, of just ignoring the problem and hoping it will go away. Of the things that you could probably do without actually admitting wrongdoing or, trying to do the right thing, ignoring it is probably the best. Or you could do what other people have done and just dig the hole deeper, which is admittedly more fun to watch. but you know, not, you know, again, short of actually making good on, you know, making it up to people. That's probably the smartest thing that you can do is just ignore the problem. So yeah, just some quick beginning of the stream things. I do not know how long Restream is going to hold together. I will work on a backup plan and see if see if I could set up something to bypass Restream when it's having a bad day. I mean, oh well. I just realized that the plan I had isn't going to work because I still need Restream for my chat. All right, we'll have to work on that. But maybe I should put up a little alert of like, be warned, or not be warned. I apologize for connection issues. It's not my fault. Let's do that quick. Text. Add text. Create new, restream. I apologize for stream connection issues. Restream is having a bad day. All right, let's size this down to something sane. I'll figure out where to put it after I move. There, wings away. Me to the corner. Now, where's a good place for this? Yeah, let's put you right there. Glad to see. Yeah, Restream has some of its own issues, one of which being the current connection one. Another of which is well, their pricing can be pretty hard on smaller streamers. But in general, I do like Restream, but I also know I'm a little bit biased since I'm grandfathered into an old plan. But yes, as a function, I do like it. However, Caffeinated's multi-stream is also working really well. Hello, welcome. So, with those little beginning of the stream things out of the way, I don't think I have any other announcements to talk about besides continuing to reiterate stuff like I am attempting to come up with a good thank you for meeting the goal. Like I said, I hadn't thought that would happen, so I hadn't planned far enough ahead. We'll work on that. For now, though, we are going to start with the first Fat Electrician video. Modern art is CIA propaganda. Was Jackson Pollock a Fed? I understand that modern art is complete and total BS. I have no idea what this is. Because this is CIA propaganda? It's just a white canvas with a dot on it. Hey, Rippy. Welcome. I have no idea what he's talking about here, so I am curious. So, with that said, the Fat Files. Here we go. Video number 1.
In a turn of events that absolutely nobody saw coming, I think I like modern art now. Today we're talking about modern art and the historically supported objective fact that the CIA used it as a psychological operation to defeat communism. That's not a joke. Just so we're on the same page, I keep saying modern art, and I'm gonna keep saying modern art, but more specifically, I'm talking about abstract expressionism, which is a subcategory of modern art. So for this, think of it as like the Jackson Pollock type stuff. You know, the stuff you look at and you're like, wow, that's worth $200 million, and I'm pretty sure my 3-year-old could do it. That type of art. And to be completely honest with you, I had every intention of this just being an 8 to 10 minute video of me talking smack about modern art and how dumb I think it is, and over the course of researching for this video, I have had a complete 180 change of heart. Not only do I think that modern art is pretty cool now, I was so compelled that I went out and bought my own piece of modern art. That's how great this story actually is. And we're gonna get into it right after a word from our sponsors. This video is brought to you by...
I don't know that I have a lot to say. I just need a second to reprocess that. Yeah, I got nothing. I have no idea what's happening.
Zaka Life Go Balm. It is a full spectrum hemp oil recovery balm that you can put on any type of athletic injury, and it's going to work better than any other type of ointment that you've ever tried. I've been using it for over a year, and whether it's old chronic injuries flaring up again or new and exciting injuries, this stuff helps either way. They're a small business based right here out of America. All their products are made here. So if you want to check them out, I'll have a link in the description down below. Let's get back to the video. All right, let's just take it from the top. World War II ends. The Cold War pretty much immediately starts, right? We split Germany right down the middle. We've got East Side versus West Side, just like Biggie and Tupac. But instead of rappers, we have communism versus capitalism. They are going to be competing at literally everything under the sun. Okay, most people think about Cold War and it's like, who has the best weapons? Who has more nuclear bombs? That's true, but there's also the culture war. America and the Soviet Union are competing against one another at absolutely everything possible. This is why we have awesome movies like Miracle, because America needs to beat the Soviet Union at hockey, and we need to win the most Olympic medals, and we have to have the best art and the best music and the best economy. It is a cultural war on everything. Now, some of these cultural battlefields are going to be way tougher than others. For example, the Olympics is going to be unbelievably tough because the USSR is just going to go in and give all their athletes funding, and it's going to be their full-time job to train to be an Olympic athlete 30 hours a day. On battlefields like this, there's not a lot the American government can do to ensure victory other than sit back, cross their fingers, and hope to God a genetic freak of nature like Dan Gable wanders out of a cornfield and wins Olympic gold at wrestling without giving up a single point. So in things like sports, it's just going to be what it's going to be. It's a good old-fashioned shootout. But on other battlegrounds that have a less defined rule set, America's going to cheat its ass off every way it can.
You're goddamn right.
And two of these extremely important yet undefined battlegrounds are art and music, and America doesn't want to go toe-to-toe with the Soviets in, say, music on a category like classical music because, well, the Soviets are going to do the same thing they do with their Olympic teams. They're going to take a 1-year-old that can barely walk, shove a violin in their hands, and make them play it 18 hours a day till they become the best violinists on earth by the time they're 7. And the American government basically has a strategy of like, yeah, no thank you, we're just going to take something the Soviets don't have and make it extremely popular, and that way we win automatically. So the government, by way of the CIA, takes a bunch of money and funnels it into the jazz industry. They take the best artists like Louis Armstrong and send him on global tours all around Europe and every other country they can get into, showing off this new style of music and making it popular across the globe. And it's something that the Soviets just aren't going to be able to compete with. And jazz ends up inspiring rock and roll. And then rock and roll ends up inspiring metal. And next thing you know, it's 1991 and Metallica is having a concert in the USSR with 1.6 million people in attendance, and 3 months later, the USSR falls. Coincidence? I think not. And they have the same exact strategy with art.
You know, that also, it seems to explain some of Britain's issues with some of those songs. That also can help explain some of Britain's issues with those songs. Because allies, but don't necessarily like CIA. Oh, that's funny. And it also reminds me of, I couldn't tell you the name of it, of the band, to save my life. But I saw a Soviet quote-unquote rock band who were drafted to be a rock band. And they looked so miserable while performing. Also, their music was kind of like, okay, Soviet rock, what? But it was so funny to watch these poor sods who had been who the Soviet Union told, you will perform rock music, get up there and just have these dead expressions on their faces. And they had no energy. They had no emotions. They were just kind of like saying the words and playing the instruments like they were in a 8th grade music class. It was really funny. But yeah, him talking about this just made me think of that. If I can remember the name or even just like the specific genre of what it was, I'll see if I can find something on it. But that was, if look up Soviet rock bands just in general sometime. The ones that are drafted are hilarious.
Okay, what are the Soviets good at? Coincidence? I think not. And they had the same exact strategy with art, okay? What are the Soviets good at? They're good at the traditional stuff, that old school realism, okay? Which, let's be honest, kind of not super needed anymore ever since we invented fucking cameras. So the American government is like, well, what do we have that's different? Let's back that. We are gonna back modern art, which is abstract expressionism, where it's literally just art for the sake of art. That's literally the definition of abstract expressionism. It's just doing it because you want to do it, because you're expressing yourself through some medium in some fashion, and that's where you get things like Jackson Pollock paintings. He's just expressing himself. Now, that doesn't sound like that big of a deal. However, it is a humongous deal because that's exactly the type of thing that you can't do over in the Soviet Union, pursuing a passion project to make a living. Now, can you be an artist? Absolutely. You can be an artist in the Soviet Union and get by just fine, provided that you're exclusively willing to paint hyper-realistic pictures of our glorious leader. And if you get bored with that, you're probably allowed to paint some pictures of our astronauts not landing on the moon first. Or maybe, if you get really bored, you could paint some muscle mommy holding a shovel, or maybe a bunch of workers returning home from the fields, but they all better have fucking smiles on their faces. So that's the angle that the US government's gonna take. They're gonna show off modern art, because modern art is nothing other than art for the sake of art. It is a symbol of freedom. It's not this tired-ass stuff the Soviets are doing, this take a picture of me, but do it with paint nonsense. All their artists over there with their techniques and their well-refined skills. No, this is America. We're gonna throw shit at the wall and we're gonna win anyways. I mean paint at the canvas. We're gonna throw paint at the canvas and we're gonna win anyways.
We're gonna tape a banana to a canvas and sell it for $5 million. Soviet attempts at anything rock where tears were shed by everyone, yes. Wasn't the one where they all look like they're from... I think it was. I think they did look like they were all from different bands. That might have been it.
You know when you're done
At the canvas. We're gonna throw paint at the canvas and we're gonna win anyways.
How do you know when you're done with a painting?
How do you know when you're done making love?
Oh, when you wash your penis in the sink and go to bed.
If we can't dazzle them with our intellect, we're gonna baffle them with our bullshit. So that's the official plan of the US government. All we have to do is make this shit popular somehow. How are they gonna do it? That's easy. Copious amounts of taxpayer money. So that's what the US government does. Right after World War II, 1946-ish, they just start pumping money into modern art, trying to get as many eyes on it as humanly possible and making it seem as...
They could have at least picked stuff that looked good, like the thing that he found. If we're gonna be talking about nonsense art that doesn't make sense, do stuff like that at least looks cool.
as cool as possible. And it was not well received pretty much by anybody. Even the art community was divided. Half the art community hated this stuff, okay? They felt like it undermined the rest of art, which makes sense, right? You spent your whole life developing this skill set, you make beautiful paintings, and then out of nowhere, here comes this Jackson Pollock guy in his drip phase, and he's just fucking overhanding paint at a canvas, not even bothering to pick the dead flies up out of it, and all of a sudden he's more famous than you are. It's absurd. And that's just the criticism they're getting from their own community. Once the church-going, more
don't forget, modern art is also one of the biggest money laundering businesses, modes, whatever you want to call it, in the world. So we've got more government doing something with unintended consequences. In this case, making it super easy for money laundering to happen.
absurd. And that's just the criticism they're getting from their own community. Once the church-going, more conservative crowd gets a hold of this shit, they lose their mind. They fucking hate it.
One of the many tools of the devil.
Because you gotta realize from this, like, church-going conservative viewpoint, the majority of artists, generally speaking, have always been more left-leaning, which is completely fine. But in this instance, the majority of these abstract expressionist artists that are blowing up are, like, borderline communist sympathizers, or some of them are even self-proclaimed communists. I mean, Jackson Pollock worked on a May Day float depicting the workers overthrowing Wall Street. Like, they have some pretty controversial political opinions. So, from the perspective of this church-going conservative, it is literally a bunch of commies trying to destroy art. And they're using our tax dollars to do it. We can't allow this to happen. It's a slippery slope. First you let them call this art, then they're going to be having concerts called Woodstock and putting flowers in their hair and smoking weed and having unprotected sex, and then Forrest Gump's girlfriend's going to get AIDS. It's going to ruin the entire world. Okay, to be fair, they weren't actually worried about Jenny, but there was a bunch of conspiracy theories going around, and one of the biggest ones was that because a lot of the artists doing this type of art were communist sympathizers, is that this weird abstract art form was some way for them to convey secret messages back to the Soviet Union. Maybe these were like maps of secret
Don't think I
US
didn't see that.
military installations, and they were all spies gathering intel, and this is how they shared it back to the USSR. Absolutely no merit to it whatsoever, but those were the types of things that people were saying. So due to the pretty violent backlash from all directions, the US government has to abandon this project and quit putting money into it almost immediately. So now the US government is in this situation where they have something that they want to do, but literally none of their constituents want them to do it. So clearly, they're not gonna do it. The video's over. That's it. The end. No, I'm just fucking kidding. Obviously, they're gonna use the CIA and do it anyways, and then just not tell anybody about it, because that's just how the government gets down, apparently. So in 1950, the CIA helps fund and set up this new organization called the CCF, the Congress for Cultural Freedom. And this isn't just for art. This is going to be a gigantic shell corporation that the government pumps money into to attack everything communist in culture. This is going to be an anti-communist propaganda-making machine. At its peak, the CCF operated in over 35 different countries. They owned and published over 30 different magazines. They owned entire news outlets. They're promoting anti-communist books, music, art, intellectuals, anything they can do to fight the communist ideology, they're doing, and they're funneling it all through the CCF. And this was deemed so successful overall that the CIA website actually says, and I quote, "The Congress for Cultural Freedom is widely considered one of the CIA's most daring and effective Cold War covert operations." So the CCF is huge, but we're
That's
focusing
depressing.
on art, and art has a unique issue in that modern art is already deemed super controversial, so they don't want the CCF to come out and support it directly, so they have to figure out a way to support it indirectly. So the CIA goes out and they're like, okay, well, we're going to get all these art foundations that already exist to work with us. Unfortunately, most of them didn't want to work with the CIA because it's, well, A, they're a bureaucratic nightmare, and B, most of them didn't like modern art. So at this point, the
Also,
CIA
they're
is
the
like, fuck it,
CIA.
we'll just make our own art foundation. So they go and they approach like a bunch of super wealthy people in New York City, and they're like, hey, start up an art foundation. We'll do all the work. We'll do all the paperwork. We're just going to funnel a bunch of money and art through this foundation. I'm sure you'll end up getting like tax write-offs or something. So all the rich people are like, dope, absolutely, go ahead. And they do this like 50 times. They amass a gigantic network of phony art foundations where they use that to just funnel money directly into modern art. Okay, they're funding the artists, they're giving away rewards, they're buying the artwork, they're donating it. Then they go to the museums and they get the museums in on it. Now the museums are going to be disproportionately showing modern art more than anything else, inflating its popularity. But that's not where it stops, because now the CCF can get involved. Now that it's like 2 to 3 degrees removed, we're going to bring the CCF in with their 20 magazines and their news outlets, and we're going to have the magazines start publishing articles about all these modern artists and how great all this art is. And then, if any art critics want to have their opinions published in any of these 20 magazines or covered by the news, they better have the right fucking opinion about modern art. So the CIA forces this into the mainstream, and it's everywhere in all the media all the time, and everybody sees it. And this is like the peer pressure effect, right? You see this in all the magazines, all the art critics love it. Eventually you're like, shit, am I the only person that thinks this is dumb? If everybody else likes it, I don't want to be the only uncultured swine that looks at something that I think my 3-year-old can do and like doesn't understand the deeper meaning. So I'm just gonna lie and pretend and say that I like it too, just so I'm part of the cool kid group. So I'm deep and thoughtful and sophisticated. So people started to like modern art. It's like candy corn, okay? I know that candy corn tastes like shit. I've never met a single person in my entire life that actually liked candy corn yet.
Anatomy of candy corn. Basically the white part of the watermelon. A pile of trash. One of the worst things you've ever tasted. Absolute garbage. A disgrace to candy. Why does this exist? We actually had an off-brand candy corn when I was a kid. I have no idea what it was called or if it still exists. But it was like someone looked at candy corn and said, no, I'm going to do this right. And it actually tasted good. It was still like chewing wax, but the flavor was actually good. It was like mostly yellow with a little bit of orange on it. And every once in a while, it was like mostly yellow with like an orange tip instead of an orange center. And occasionally, there'd be a little bit of white in the yellow. What have I missed in chat before I get going? Banana Wall, prank that went way better expected, sadly. Okay, I will check that out after this video and see if that is it. To be fair, Polycad techniques, that's called being psychotic. Burning 10 pictures for every one he's willing to show. And yeah, I'm with up to. That looked very communist. Hello.
Candy corn tasted, so people started to like modern art. It's like candy corn, okay? I know that candy corn tastes like shit. I've never met a single person in my entire life that actually liked candy corn. Yet, somehow, some way, every October, it's absolutely everywhere. It's got the best marketing on the planet for no apparent reason. I don't even know what company makes candy corn, yet it's everywhere all the time for the entire month of October. Fuck, candy corn's gotta be a psyop, too. It's gotta be like nuclear waste. That's how the government gets rid of it. I have no idea. But anyway, sorry, I'm getting distracted. Now, I can't prove that candy corn is a psyop yet. I'm going to look into it. I'm upset about this now. But we do know for a fact that modern art was a psyop, or at least its rise to fame was a psyop. And we know this because in 1966, the New York Times had found out that the CIA helped make the CCF, and they ran it as a story. Now, they only knew about the CCF. They didn't know about all the other extra stuff that they did in the art community with the founding of all these different shell art foundations. That didn't come out until the 1990s. But it did get the ball rolling for a bunch of conspiracies because now the art community is super skeptical of abstract expressionism. Now, it just didn't make sense from their point of view. You know, usually, typically speaking, it's almost common knowledge that most artists don't get super famous until after they die. Yet somehow, all the major abstract expressionists, Jackson Pollock, de Kooning, Rothko, these guys were all superstars during their lifetime. They had multiple page spreads in magazines. They were making tons of money. They were rich. They were famous. It just made zero sense, historically speaking. Because of this, a lot of people in the art community thought for sure the government had to be behind it. In 1974, famous art critic Max Kuzlov said that it was, quote, a benevolent form of propaganda. And here's the kicker with this. We don't know to what degree the artists that benefited the most from this actually knew that they were being used by the CIA, because as far as they probably knew, they just received a bunch of money from some art foundation owned by some rich guy. They didn't know that that rich guy was actually working with the CIA. On the flip side of that, maybe they did know the entire time, and some people cite the fact that Jackson Pollock later in his life denounced communism as evidence of that. However, in my personal opinion, I don't really buy it. I think these guys had no clue.
All right. I was hoping to push through it, but if it's completely unwatchable, I am going to have to just call it. Ah, restream, why? Hello, welcome, and thank you for the follow. I'm sorry that I am having issues tonight. I'm afraid that there's some things just not working. I'm going to try one thing I have left. No, I do not contact people on Discord. You can join my server. All right. That kills Passes, Picardo, Rumble, Twitter, and Odyssey. It doesn't make me happy, but I don't have a lot of other choices. All right. There we go. How's our connection? Still bad? Is this watchable or is this still unwatchable? I've now officially done everything in my power to try to fix this. This is better? Alright, so I killed... It doesn't make any sense to have the multi-stream, outgoing stream not working. I mean, not helping or whatever. Just because I have so much outgoing space. I'm already up to half of my frames in climbing lost. We still... Man, that's bad. Looking at this, looking at where the stats are going. All right. Well, if this is unwatchable, we're just gonna have to call it because there's nothing else I can do about this, I'm afraid. I'm afraid that this is a restream issue. It's not my connection. I was hoping that by restarting it, maybe it'd be OBS. But each time I have shut down the stream, I've had to very quickly log back in. So this is a restream issue, I'm afraid. So, scrubbing the stream for tonight. I am sorry that we couldn't do the whole night. We'll have to come back on Sunday. I don't think I'll be able to stream tomorrow. We'll see how things go. I wish you all a good weekend, and yeah, that sucks. Restream, get your act together.